Hey, Shalom Mashallah. When the start of souls, but giving no praise to Yahweh, Shem Shah, Shem Kakudash, double honor to the apostles of GMS and honesty brothers in the work of the Most High in truth and sincerity. Alright, so following on from Genesis 1, this is now Genesis 2. Right, I'm just gonna go into it. Lord will be edifying, right? So Genesis 2 and 1 says, "Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day, the powers ended, right? And it says his, but as going on from Genesis 1, because you read it in the scriptures, what say God, or read that, the word in the Hebrew is Allah Hayim, right? Allah, as we said in the previous lesson, meaning, meaning power, and the yum at the end makes it plural, right? And the reason why whenever you hear you're starting with the apostles on down breaking these scriptures, Genesis 1 and 2 down, reason why it's brothers always stress the powers, and they, right, is because in this, it's very important to understand that in this context there's actually more than one individual that's being referred to here, right? It's referring to Yahweh Shai and the angels, right? Right, so it says, and on the seventh day the powers ended their work. That's really what it should read, right? Which work which they had made, and they rested on the seventh day from all their work which they had made, right? That's really how it should read, right? Remember, this is a translation. That's what it says in the prologue of Sirach. For all things, written and then translated from their original tongue have not the same force in them, right? Which is, the examples are like the word world, where, when you read it, you're thinking about one singular world, when, there's just in English, you have the one word world, right? But in the Greek, for instance, you've got, I think, you've got aeon, which is an age. You've got cosmos, which is a particular set, a harmonious arrangement. So, for instance, when you refer to like John 3:16, where it says world, right, that's cosmos, which basically means a, would you call it, this particular group. So, for God so loved the world, that world in reference was Israel, right? And also, in contrast, John 17:9, right? I pray for them, I pray not for the world. That word also is cosmos, right? Because what Yahushua was saying there was, look, I don't even pray for all Israel, right? I only pray for the elect of Israel, right? Which thou hast given me, right? And then what you got Aeon, you got Cosmos, and then you've got, it escaped me, I just had it, but the one referring to the whole inhabited earth, right? And that's just one, three words for different, for the word world, right? Sort of like you, right? In other languages, you got, for instance, in the Spanish, you got tu, right? And then you got voy. Tu to you means singular, so I am referring to one other person as you, and then voy, you hear that you're like, okay, I'm referring to several yous, right? When I say you, I'm referring to a group of people, right? And that's why, once again, the scripture says things uttered in Hebrew and then translated into another tongue have not the same force in them. That's in a prologue of Sirach, right? I don't have it here, but you can read it, right, in your own leisure, which the word leisure, if I'm remembering correctly, comes from the Spanish leer, meaning to read, right? So Genesis 2 and 3 says, and the powers blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it they had rested from all their work which the powers created and made. Right. So these are the generations of heavens and of the earth when they were created in the day that important Yahweh, right, power made the earth and the heavens, right? So in this particular instance, this is where first time from the beginning of the scriptures that you see the name of the Lord, right? It says Yahweh this time, right? It says Yahweh made the heaven and the earth. I think that's all it says in the breakdown, right? So it says the first occurrence of Yahweh's name, right, in the scriptures, right? Generations are not talking about genealogies. Angels don't have sex, right? Matthew 22 and 30, right? But the record of what Yahweh Shai and the angels did, right? Hebrews 1 and 2, Colossians 1:16, right? The Lord power ultimately gets all the credit. That's what it says here, that he made the earth and the heavens, right? Gives the example once again of King Solomon. King Solomon didn't physically, he wasn't out there building a temple on his own, right? no, he hired people to do this, to do the handiwork, right? And then you consider, once again, people who are building a house, or not building, or even building a house. They'll say, "Oh yeah, we're building a house." They're not building a house, right? Kind of people that can afford to build a house, right? And in the UK, they're the kind of people that are working all the damn time, right? So what they do, and they've hired contractors to build their house, or I'm redoing my kitchen. No, they've hired a contractor to redo the kitchen, right? They've given the blueprint, right? And then guess what? When people come around and see the kitchen, they're like, "Oh my God, I like what you've done with the kitchen. I like what you've done with the bathroom. I like what you've done with the house." But they haven't done it. They just paid someone to do it and gave the blueprint, right? Just like how Yahweh gave the blueprint to Yahushua and the angels to basically create the world, right? And the heavens and everything, right? So hopefully that's cleared that up for anyone for whom it wasn't clear. Right, so it's Genesis 2 and 5. And every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew. For Yahweh power had not caused it to rain upon earth, and there was not a man to till the ground. But there went up a mist from the earth and watered the whole face of the earth, so the whole face of the ground. So there was a dew, right? Says, and the Lord power formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul, right? We're given understanding, right? So dust is twofold, referring literally to dust, right? Because of all the elements found in man can be found in the elements of the ground, but also confusion, right? Man was taken out of his confused state and given the laws and order, right? The breath, all right, represents the spirit, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, right? So let's get some of these precepts. Let's open them up in new tabs so make our lives easier. This is Wisdom 7:24. For wisdom is more moving than any motion. She passeth and goeth through all things by reason of her pureness. For she is the breath of the power of God, and the pure influence flowing from the Almighty, from the glory of the Almighty. Therefore, can know the far thing fall to her. Right? So, sorry, making that wrong button. Right? So yeah, it's linked to Genesis 2 and 7. Right, says, for she is the brightness of the everlasting light, the unspotted mirror of the power of God, and the image of his goodness, and not and being but one, she can do all things, and remaining in herself, she maketh all things new, and in all ages entering in holy souls, she maketh them friends of gods and prophets. For the Most High loveth none but him that dwelleth in wisdom. Right. So the point there was basically that wisdom is breath, right? For verse 25 again, for she is the breath of the power of God, right? So wisdom is breath, right? We read that also in Ezekiel 37. How much did it say to read? Well, it's, yeah, the whole chapter. Well, at least first 15 or so verses, right? This is Ezekiel 37 and 1. The hand of Yahweh was upon me and carried me out in the spirit of the Lord Yahweh, right? And set me down in the midst of the valley, which is full of bones, right? This is, referring to, the Israelites in a dead state, right? It says, and caused me to pass by them round about, and behold, there were very many in the valley, and lo, they were very dry, right? Very many, a lot of Israelites in America, right? Yeah, because if I remember, actually, this is referring to mainly America. Valley represents a low land, which is referring to America, right? Yeah, because for instance, you also read Psalms 23, though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, right? Valley of low land. On the shadow of death. America ain't the shadow of death. You go out, you're Jake, you send your child to school, you don't know whether they're going to come back or not, right? Whether it's the cops that kill them, whether they get abducted, taken to Epstein's Island, or whether, they get killed in school, whether, the cops kill them. You just never know, right? Whether they force a vaccine on your child when you're not aware of it, and now your child it's just so many different ways, right? Just always around death, near death in America, right? Verse 3 says, and he said unto me, Son of man, can these bones live? And I answered, O Lord, power thou knowest. Again he said unto me, prophesy unto these bones, and say unto them, O ye dry bones, hear the word of Yahweh. Right, thus saith the Lord, power unto these bones. Behold, I'll cause breath to enter into you, and ye shall live, right? And that breath, once again, is talking about, the spirit, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, right? It says, yeah, the knowledge of the Most High, right? Take you from a dead state. So we come back here, right? It says Genesis 2:8. Now it says, and the Lord power, planted in Yahweh power planted a garden eastward in Eden, right? So now the word Eden means I done in the Hebrew, right? Which so I done, you see there, Eden, pleasure, right? Paradise, right? The whole earth was paradise, right? That's what it says. God planted a garden eastward in Eden, right? So this particular garden was eastward, right? I.e., Jerusalem, right? That region, right? Israel, right? Because it goes into, I don't know if it's in this chapter here where it's talking, yeah, it is, where it talks about the different rivers, right? So, whereas the whole earth is Eden, right? It says, and out of the, whoops, let's see if I missed anything there. No, right? So it says, and out of the ground made the Lord power, right? Yahweh power to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, right? So the trees are metaphorical, Revelation 22, 1 to 2. So let's open that up real quick. Revelation 22 and 1, right? And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of the power and of the Lamb, right? And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God and of the Lamb, right? In the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, where was there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, right? And yielded her fruit every month, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations, right? It says they refer to the formation of the heavens, the stars, etc. Issachar was well versed in studying this. So that was, I knew it was First Chronicles 12 yesterday, but it is what it is, right? First Chronicles 12:32, going into that whole story about how Issachar were able to read the stars and know basically what was going on, right? Being able to forecast and see what. Let me just read it. It says, First Chronicles 12:32, and of the children of Issachar, which were men that had understanding of the times, to know what Israel ought to do, right? Their heads of them were 200, and their brethren were at their commandment, right? And had understanding of the times by looking into the heavens. So we carry on, right? So it says the tree of life represents the knowledge of righteousness, whereas the tree of knowledge of good and evil represents both good and evil. Right now we've got Sirach 17 and 7 here. It says, with all he filled them with the knowledge of understanding and showed them good and evil, right? Just straight into the point, right? So we continue. Right, verse 10 says, and a river went out of Eden to water the garden, right? And from thence it was parted and became into four heads. And the first is Pison, that is it which compasseth the whole land of Havilah, where there is gold, right? The Pison is the Red Sea, right? It says, and the gold of that land is good. There is bdellium and the onyx stone. And the name of the second river is Gihon. The same is it that compasseth the whole land of Ethiopia. So we know that is the Nile, right? It's still called Ethiopia to this day. And that's, what do you call that's the beauty of the law, because although, the Lord made certain bits of understanding get forgotten, right? That he kept certain things there for reference purposes, right? So we carry on verse 14. Right, it says, and the name of the third river is Hiddekel, that is it which goeth toward the east of Assyria, and the fourth is Euphrates. Once again, the Euphrates is still named such, right? It says, and the Hiddekel is referring to the Tigris, right? So what land are we talking about? This is Israel, Right, it says, and the Lord power took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden, right, to dress it and to keep it. And Yahweh commanded and the man, saying, of every tree of the garden thou mayest freely eat, right? So it's literal trees, right? It says, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. Now, this one is metaphorical, whereas we read earlier on. And Lord Power said, it is not good that man should be alone. I'll make an helpmeet for him. Well, what precepts do we have here? Makes sense. 1 Corinthians 11 and 9 says, neither was the man created for the woman, right? But the woman for the man. So the woman is supposed to be a helpmeet unto the man, right? But in this kingdom, man, scripture says you shall have trouble in the flesh, right? Verse 19 says, and out of the ground the Lord power formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, right, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every living creature, that was the name thereof, right? It says, and Adam gave names to all cattle, and Adam gave names to all cattle, and to the fowl of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found an helpmeet for him. And the Lord power caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh thereof. Now, you read that as, oh yeah, the Lord put Adam in a coma, put him on an operating table, took a rib, and then he grew Eve out of this. No, 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 that's not what it's talking about. It's metaphorical. It's going to go into this here. Right, it's parabolic for someone that is near to Adam, right? Right, say, as that's my dog, man. That's, it's not literally your dog, right? It's your friend. You could just call him your dog, because and that's throughout his like history. We've had different things. Would you call it, to refer to kin, to family, or whatever, right? Hey, that's my blood. It's not literally your blood. You didn't come out of you, right? You looked in, have a blood transfusion, but that's a way of saying you are kinfolk, right? And the example given is Genesis 29 and 12 says, and Jacob told Rachel that he was her father's brother, and that he was Rebekah's son, and she ran and told her father. And it came to pass, when Laban heard the tidings of Jacob his sister's son, that he ran to meet him and embraced him and kissed him and brought him to see his house. And he told Laban all these things. And Laban said to him, and listen up, surely thou art my bone, not my flesh. And he abode with him the space of a month, right? And that was he literally Laban's bone? No, right? But he's referring to the fact that they were family. Once again, blood, right, is a modern day equivalent of saying the same thing. Hey, that's my blood, man. Hey, blood is thicker than water, right? That's my blood. All of this sort of stuff, basically going into the facts that basically saying we are family. That's what this here verse is saying, right? So read it again. And the Lord power caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh thereof. So why is it written this way? Well, it's written this way because ultimately the Lord didn't want people to understand it, right? That's why you read even Isaiah 6 and 9 through 11. You read Matthew 13, would you call it, around about the 13th verse through 16, right? Which is basically quoting Isaiah 6 and 9. Right, but at the end of that, what does it say in Matthew 13 and 16? Blessed are your eyes, for they see, right? It also says, for you it is given, but to them it is not given. So the understanding of these scriptures, right, aren't given to everyone. Right? Scriptures also say, the carnal man cannot receive the things of the spirit because they're spiritually discerned, right? So these scriptures are a puzzle, right? And they're a code almost, and only what you call you got in computing, you got encryption, right? And you can't read the contents of a message unless you've got the key to uncrypt it, right? To decrypt it rather. Right? And these scriptures are encrypted, right? And through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, right? The Lord has opened up our minds, using the apostles on down, right? Opened up our minds to basically decrypt these scriptures so that we can read them and understand what's going on here, right? So we continue, verse 22, we're almost done. Right, and the rib which Yahweh power had taken from man, made he a woman and brought her unto the man. Right now, they weren't. They were more than. Yes, this was going into. Men and women were created at the same time. Genesis 5 and 2, right? Because this is just a storyline we're following, but there were more people around, right? Because once again, where did what was this guy? Cain. Where did Cain get his wives from? Right? So verse 23, and Adam said, this is now bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman because she was taken from man. Right? Therefore shall a man leave his father and his mother and shall cleave unto his wife, and they shall be one flesh. Right? So should become one. And that's what's going on here. Right? It's all about becoming a family. It's all about someone near of kin, someone who's like family. Right? It says, and they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed, right? Naked to the truth. They were naive. Naive is a perfect word there, right? They were naive, right, to what was going on. So, yeah, this is Genesis, the second chapter. Once again, the apostles have videos, where these notes were taken from, right? And you can read, watch them videos if you can find them, because they go into certain, what's the word, nuances that may not be here, or that may not have gone into, right? And yeah, as always, Lord's Will, I was edifying. Till next time, Shalom.